4-3. And Town of Lakeview Council Resolution 72-012918. For 8 months and pursuant to the above referenced actions. These are the actions, if you read those documents, they would be the ones talking about the GUSC and the city coming together to form a utility services agreement. So those are the documents that are referenced there. For 8 months and pursuant to the above referenced actions, the GUSC and sewer provider have been laying out terms of a utility service agreement. During this time, there have been numerous attempts to come together with the mayor of the town of Lakeview to begin negotiations. However, the mayor has refused to meet. On that point, before we go any further, this is not a time for an editorial, I suppose, but I'm going to comment because I've been questioned there. Over the last 3 weeks, I have had no fewer than 5 appointments with Mike White and Gerald Allen, the subject of which I did not know. I had no clue what these meetings were to be about. In each case, Mr. Allen has come back, and not Mr. Allen, I'm sorry, Mr. White has come back and for some reason not been able to keep those meetings. So for me to receive a letter last week telling me that I was the reason that we have not met was humorous and insulting at the same time. Right now, there's a meeting set tentatively for Monday. I don't have a time or place yet, but if we'll just remain positive that the meeting will occur. On September 10th, 2018, the sewer provider contacted the GUSC president with a request that she forward the following to the GUSC chair for time delivery to the Town of Lakeview Council. The sewer provider is offering to accept a debt in lieu of foreclosure. A deed, yes, a deed. Boy, a few letters make a big difference. Let's start that sentence over again. I'm still thinking about him saying that I refuse to meet, I'm sorry. The sewer provider is offering to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure as payment in full for all outstanding debt owed to the sewer provider, given certain conditions. And here's his conditions. The sewer provider takes ownership of all collection systems, rights of way, and any other property held by the Lakeview GUSC. The Lakeview GUSC will be dissolved and any agreements between the sewer provider and the GUSC are terminated. The Town of Lakeview has no further obligation to the sewer provider. The sewer provider has no further obligation to the Town of Lakeview and can do business with whomever they choose. With ownership of the collection system and treatment facility, sewer customers continue to be customers of the sewer provider so long as he retains ownership of the same. Upon acceptance of this offer, there will be no repayment of any GUSC debt to the Town of Lakeview. At this time, I believe that's just the $5,000 that we loaned them to secure an attorney, but I don't take that as the only amount. He goes on to close. Offer is, should say she goes on to close. This is from Rhonda Brownlee. Offer is on the table for action by the GUSC and Council until October 11, 2018, which is actually the next time the Council meets. I will go on and chime in first. I guess it's the second time I've chimed in, actually. The only portion there that screams to me, there is no secret that the town wants to annex back this direction. And we don't have contiguous property. Not everyone is in favor of the town continuing to grow that direction or regrowing the places that we had at one time. The ability to maintain access to the rights of way and easements are key to that goal. I've talked to a number of attorneys, and it's been recommended that we do something, for lack of a better term, it would be a blanket easement where whoever owned the sewer system would maintain rights to have that line in there and put more lines in if he or she needs to, and at the same time we would have the access to just use that as an access to other properties, or to even put in another utility if somebody comes along and we need it. Some technology that we don't even know about yet, just to have that ability. Of all of the things that is mentioned in this letter, that's the one that concerns me the most, is giving up that, property. Nancy,
Mhm.
what property does the Gus own at this point? You know, I sent that letter, but I sent it late.
I don't know that they can saw anything from you, because I hadn't turned on, I've been gone most of the day, so I didn't check emails.
I sent an email just asking, what the properties are,
Well,
what the easements are that the Gus still owns.
off the top of my head, there are pipelines under 6 subdivision, under every street. 'Cause you gotta have one to get to every house. Okay?
Okay.
There's connection points between those subdivisions.
Okay, the
Okay.
border stations.
Yeah, border. I'm just gonna give you,
Yeah, just
all
break it
of,
down,
all of the stuff. And then you got pipeline running up 216 to link to, Loves and Petro.
And the Gus still maintains.
No, the Gus still does not maintain that, does not have that. But I'm thinking off the top of my head, the total pipeline
Of
stuff.
those two you've already mentioned, the pipes under the street, and the stations, the outside portions. Of that, what does the Gus still have control of?
Without going back and looking at the documents, I don't remember. I just know there's pipeline under 6 subdivisions. You got connecting lines, and you got pipeline that runs up, like I say, you got pipeline that runs all the way up to past Petro. And when I say past Petro, just basically that last pumping station. There's not sure if the easement or right of way that runs out to the school. I know the pipeline is not, it belongs to the Board of Education. The property that the pipeline sits in, I don't remember if that was part of the deed, part of the other document or not.
But you'll be able to get that information for us.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, super.
I mean, for purposes of this meeting, I don't know that it's that relevant, other than we got pipeline in a lot of areas and, could be recouped.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not, doesn't have a lot of bearing on this meeting, but it will become very important between now and the 11th.
Well, and, you know, you might be able to, it might be beneficial in, I'm sure Mike will have that information in, the meeting that's supposed to take place on Monday. Sure we will have
So
that.
your verbiage of pipeline is his, verbiage of collection system?
Yes.
Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
The collection system is pipelines and pumping stations. That's what the collection system is.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine, yeah.
But doing 2 different kinds of verbiage?
Yeah. Okay.
I asked John Terry to come for my benefit. He was former attorney for the town, and there's not anyone other than maybe someone sitting at this table that knows any more about the sewer from the city standpoint than John Terry does. So based on what you just heard, John, I would be interested in hearing your opinion.
You know,
Before we go. in
No,
that direction,
I've given the floor to John, I want John's opinion.
Nancy, is that your understanding of a workshop that we invite? Okay, anybody else that wants to speak is welcome to. We'll
I will certainly give them that opportunity. The chair is in charge of this meeting.
Yep.
If you don't like it, the door's right there.
No, I can't agree.
Please.
it's potentially a doable thing, not knowing exactly what remains as property of the Gus is somewhat difficult to answer. Also have to see the nature of the actual easement that was taken at the time. Some of those easements, the one she names under the subdivisions, probably are not owned by the Gus. They're probably easements granted by the developer. So the Gus probably, as a general rule, would not own those easements. They would be an easement dedicated directly to the sewer provider or utility service that utilize those access points. something may tell me different, just from experience and looking at some Gus minutes over the last several years. There's been a number of transfers already of easement rights to the provider by the Gus board, so it would be unclear to me without updated information as to what easements, if any, the Gus still actually maintain control of.
When you say this is doable, are you talking, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, that accepting.
I'm saying something along these lines may be doable, but not having the correct information makes it an unwise move without full knowledge and information about what's actually owned by the Gus still and what has already been transferred.
Is there something that would give Mr. White or whoever the owner happens to be of the sewer, give them access to that while we maintain access to the same easement?
Yeah, I mean, an easement, and it depends on the easement language under which the easements were acquired. Most easements are taken with a broad stroke, anticipating that, particularly where it's taken by a city entity, such as Gus Board or the city itself, are taken with, keeping in mind that you've got other potential utility uses that may aid the city or its residents in the future. So most utilities are sort of broad stroked in the language that we use to allow other or future utility growth to utilize the same easements as long as they don't interfere with existing use. And of course, that would have to be a part of any transfer of assets or ownership would have to take into consideration reserving a right for future use by the city to grant certain easement rights to any other utility, as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, that may come in the future. You know, and that again begs the question, you've got to see the actual easement language to determine if it's a broad-based easement or it's a very narrowly tailored easement to sewer only.
So each easement could have very different language on how it was.
More than likely they do. Depending on when and how they were taken and what time frame they were taken. Memory serves me as seeing some older easements, some of them very typical easements, they were broad-based, other easements were very narrowly tailored, particularly where they impacted certain individual property rights and went across individual properties. They were fairly narrowly tailored to sewer only. So again, so we're looking at the actual easements that remain. And also you could probably address it in a fairly generic fashion to where any easements that are transferred as a part of this type of transaction, the city would retain access rights for further utility growth only, or potential city growth.
Thank you, John.
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes.
In the description that councilperson Nancy made statements that there were sewer pipelines, which is part of the collection system, that are within the roads. But my understanding over the years that the roads are right-of-ways. Are the right-of-ways, have the right-of-ways been turned over from a public right-of-way from the town to Gus Board?
No. No.
Or is
I would be very surprised if public right-of-ways were.
So that wouldn't be part of it, that's not an easement, that's a right-of-way, so there's some difference in control assets there. Not to say that they couldn't have a sewer line there, it would be something that would affect agreements to allow the right-of-way to be used for that purpose. But I don't know, without it being part of the Gus, then the Gus would not have the authority to control what utilities that you were talking about to access the right-of-ways, because that would be under the control of the council and mayor's office.
Thank you, George. Let's read these again, these conditions again, for the councils, or anyone else, for your benefit. The conditions: the sewer provider takes ownership of all collection systems, rights of way, and any other property held by the Lakeview Gus. And while that does mention right of way, those rights of way would not be in the power of Lakeview Gusk. I'm certain we could check on that though. The Lakeview Gusk will dissolve and any agreements between the sewer provider and Gusk are terminated. The town of Lakeview has no further obligation to the sewer provider. The sewer provider has no further obligation to the town of Lakeview and can do business with whomever they choose. With ownership of the collection system and treatment facility, sewer customers continue to be customers of the sewer provider so long as he retains ownership of the same. Sounds like he might be planning to sell it, that's what it sounds like to me. Upon acceptance of this offer, there will be no repayment of the Gus debt to the town of Lakeview.
Can I ask a question? Do we have a receipt from the Gus where they did use that money, to retain an attorney? Do we have
any
proof of
receipt?
what that money was sent for?
There's
Spin
a,
over.
there's cancer check,
That's a check.
there's a check. I mean, that, for part of it was used, rest of it's sitting in the bank account.
Can we get a copy of that, what you spent, for what the purpose of borrowing it, what for, was for?
No, yeah, I mean, it's made out to an, yeah, it's made out to an attorney, it's made out to an
Okay, can we have
attorney.
a copy of that?
I think I can probably do that, it's probably in the bank statement, in one of the bank statements. But I don't know that that's really relevant to our problem that we have right here. I understand you're
Well, if you're
you're
gonna,
asking for it,
if
but,
you only spent 3,000 to 5,000 and 2,000 sitting in a checking account for the Gus, and the Gus is gonna dissolve, that
Oh, yeah, you get it.
2,000 would go back to the town because
Yes.
it wasn't used for what it was borrowed for, is what I'm making my statement
Yes.
clear for.
yes, that account.
That wouldn't be,
I would see that account is closed out and the balance returned to the town.
that's all I'm asking, is just how much was spent. You probably know that amount.
We sent $2,500 to the account.
Nancy, have you come up with any pros and cons yourself?
Yeah, if, I guess the cons of accepting this, the cons would be if we accept this offer, okay? We're eliminating a lot of growth and, economic development. Brad, do you have, and this, my thing was everybody just pipe in, you know,
Well, that's what I said other night.
Yeah.
The main thing is, if we do this,
that's right.
of course, Jefferson County just purchased all kinds of property, up to Kimbrell Cutoff, and then behind these two subdivisions and down Motown Road. And they just did that very recently. And by doing that, that cuts off any potential growth that we have on a commercial aspect of getting that funding for the town. So we would basically say, if we agree this, in my opinion, is we're landlocking ourselves. Unless we do something like what the mayor and, John Terry, and George, chimed in on keeping a blanket easement open for us. So that's something we have to look at. Are we ready for accept this as it is, don't change anything, Lakeview is now going away.
Yeah,
We're landlocked where we are, then only budget you'll have is what your few things that you do get in, your property taxes, your utility monies, and our two little stores. And that's a very limited budget that you'll have, so that means police force will shrink. Staffing may shrink, because you have to have the money to support it. So that was my opinion. This is saying, basically, goodbye, Lakeview.
Well, if we accept the offer, of course, the Gusk is gone. No more issues of conflict of interest, because the Gusk is gone, Gusk debt is gone. From what I'm understanding, he's saying he's gonna take the deed as payment in full, for the debt. There's been a lot of, people say that, because of the debt, that, the sewer provider has had leverage over the town. Well, that debt would be gone, and the leverage would be gone. I would still be a customer of the same sewer provider, write my checks to the same place every month. But again, the Gus would be gone with any ability to negotiate rates or anything. As Jan said, I think we are really, doing a bit of a disservice to this if, I know I ran on a platform of growth. Severely, hamper, if not totally eliminate our possibilities for growth. You talked about having possibly fewer police officers. Well, in the next couple of years, we could have twice as many people, and of course, we'll get additional ad valorem taxes as those houses are completed and sold, and people move in. But, once those houses are completed, that construction revenue is going to dry up. So, definitely something to consider is whether or not, if we accept this offer, the town can continue to grow, or if we will pretty much exist, pretty much the size we are now with the limited business income we have now.
Well, I'm just wondering how limiting it truly would be. Based, if we're looking to the sewer to fuel our, well, I'm not trying to get anyone, sorry about that, folks, I ran the volume down, but she's still hollering about something. Maybe that's a sign. We're up against Jefferson County and their sewer stuff, right here at Kimball Cutoff. Now that sale has been complete, that will all be on Jefferson County sewer as soon as they get through running it.
Well, we assume that, we don't know that for a fact.
I do know for a fact it's been sold to the county, and I don't know whether it's, they'll put Jefferson County sewer in there, but that would be, well,
Safe assumption.
yeah, that would be a safe assumption. But drove that direction into Bibb County, that presents its own unique set of problems, but I guess it could happen. Growth down 216 on the other end of town beyond Dollar General doesn't involve the sewer, and you continue its pace would not be based on having a sewer up here on this end or not. My concern with any of this is the rights of way and the easements. Having those accesses to crawl past these properties that are right here that may not want to cooperate with the town, get past them. Because if they don't want to be in Lakeview, I don't want them to be in Lakeview. Let's go past them and let the people, these businesses at exit 100, there's two really large businesses there that want to be in Lakeview, because we're the ones that are coming by there supporting them, and we're the ones that are protecting them when they need some help. That's the only thing here that really scares me, and would keep me from agreeing to it.
Brad, do you have any comments, any pros or
I
comments?
just wanted to clarify what debt is owed.
The money was borrowed to put the collection system in.
But what money do you, I mean,
Who had the money?
The Gus nor the town had the funding to put in a collection system, okay? And we already defined the collection system, okay? So, we borrowed the money to put in the collection system, okay?
Who borrowed it?
The
The town,
established
yeah,
the
the
Gus.
town established the Gus,
but
So-
who signed documents?
but I
Today.
believe both the town and the Gus signed it. I'd have to look at the note again, I don't remember who
I
signed it.
mean,
Yeah,
that's what I wanna know
Yeah.
too.
yeah, but I mean, the documents are there, they don't lie, but that's what the debt was for. And over the years, okay, of course you have interest, okay?
Well, back up, if we loan the money to put it in the collection system should be ownership by the Gus.
That's right,
It is.
okay.
So there's no debt to the sewer provider.
But you have to pay the mortgage that you generated to put the collection system in. And it just so happens that the mortgage holder is also the same guy who owns the plant,
The treatment center.
the treatment plant, okay?
So if I understand it correctly, the town borrowed the money to put in the collection system to build all these neighborhoods. The treatment facility's already been over there.
Yeah, it was already there, it was already pre-existing.
So the pipes and stuff were put in, the money was borrowed from the sewer provider. He's the only one that showed up with the checkbook. So the money was borrowed by the sewer provider, but the town couldn't just take the money, the town set up the GUSC so that the GUSC was the.
But I'd like,
in
I
the-
understand all that, Tony, but what I'd like to see is, did the town borrow it, or did the GUSC borrow it? The GUSC borrowed the money, the town didn't borrow the money. But prove me wrong, show me the documents, so I will know. But that's what I want, and I wanna know what debt it is, cause I believe, you remember how many times I asked, and Mr. White actually came to a meeting in this room and stood up there with a stack of this many pages, and would not give us a copy, would not give us a total, and said he would email a copy, that he could put it in a PDF. I never got that copy, and I believe it was the year of 2007 or 2008. But I still don't know what dollar amount we're talking, how much of that is interest of what was borrowed. So that's the kind of information I would like to know.
Well, it's in the documents.
Yeah.
It's in this book in here.
Probably with the fourth forbearance
It's
agreement.
it's in the forbearance agreements.
Who is,
But that doesn't,
Tannehill Investment LLC? Anybody recognize that?
the forbearance agreements refer to an original document, that's what she's asking to see.
Well, they're in there, I mean, I can't recall them, I can't recall them because they're nearly 20 years old at this point. And for years, as far as what the GUS board operated as, I wasn't on the GUS board, so, it just had to be going back through, myself going back through old documents.
They have those
But they're in
documents.
there. But anyway, going back to Brad's question, the money was borrowed to put in the collection system, and the collection system, of course, consisted of, the buying of rights of way, buying and installation of pipeline. You gotta pay labor to put that pipeline in, you're not just buying a piece of pipe. You've got, over all of the years, there had been several lawsuits that the GUS was involved in, so he extended that line of credit there to cover some of those.
Excuse me.
That's his phone vibrating off the wall. You got that, you got interest.
And for a while, the town paid the.
Yeah, for a long time, Jan, you remember for a long
We
time.
paid all the power bills, we
Right,
did
we
all,
paid
we
power
paid
bills.
his attorney bills for years.
Well, we paid a portion of the attorney bills, yeah.
Yeah.
But, he picked up that, I'll call it the more, line of credit or mortgage, for lack of a better word. But, what we couldn't cover as the town and the GUS was, those debts were extended and added on
I would just
on there.
like to know the amount, who signed the original papers, and who borrowed the money,
Mhm.
is what I'd like to see.
Well, the bottom line is,
We owe some, or the GUS owes money.
bottom line is, we need to address, do we want to answer this with a positive or a negative, result? And if we come to the conclusion and decision and take a vote on it in the council meeting that we do not want to accept this, we need to make sure that according to those resolutions that were passed by both the GUS and the town, that these negotiations get underway, and whoever's stalling needs to quit stalling.
One of the things when I first ran for office, one of the first things that I asked about was, somebody explain this sewer thing to me, explain the sewer thing, the Gus thing, what the relationship is, what the legal relationship is. Somebody handed me a stack of documents about this big, and reading them is especially not fun. I have said numerous times, and especially as we've been looking to recruit a town attorney, is that one of the first things that I would like to see our town attorney do is to look at those documents and give us a legal opinion, and so that you're convinced, and you're convinced, and I'm convinced, and you're convinced, that it's either there is an obligation or there is not. And that did not happen, has not happened. I'd still like to hire a town attorney and have them do that forthwith. It appears from the offer that we got from the sewer provider is that he feels that he has the documentation to, do what he is suggesting.
I've asked him for that a number of times as well.
Well, it's kind of, how much money has the Gus made off the collection system that it loaned money for somebody to install?
I don't think the intent was for the Gus to ever collect any money.
It wasn't. It was to be used as an annexation tool.
Y'all have to forgive me, but I'm just as simple as I can be when it comes to this sort of thing. I sort of see it as there was an empty lot and Nancy wants to put a house on it. Well, Nancy needs the money to build the house, so the people will come. So Nancy borrows the money from the bank. Nancy has a debt to the bank holds the house as collateral.
And in this situation, the bank lives in the house, and Nancy doesn't get in the house.
I'm not sure I'm following. So if you borrowed the money to build the house and you actually built the house, that's where the money is. The bank's holding the house as collateral, but they expect you to repay the debt. And in our situation, if I understand it correctly, the money was loaned to build the collection system. The collection system is between my house and the treatment center and the treatment facility. And the sewer provider still runs the treatment facility, but the collection system is owned by the GUST. And the GUST does not pay for it because the financial agreement that was made at the time that all of this happened was that the GUST would pay back the loan with a percentage of new revenues. And those new revenues have never come. Well, the new revenues are sitting right up there at the exit. The new revenues, if you get Petro and Love's annexed, some of those small businesses up there, you know, we could see I don't know the exact figure, let's assume it's $300,000. Well, even if we turned around and gave $200,000 of that to pay off the debt, we still get to keep $100,000. We can do a lot with $100,000.
I want to correct something. I'm sorry.
Once the debt is repaid, then we get to keep all of the money. So I'd rather have a percentage of something than all of nothing.
Can I say something?
Certainly.
One time they sent us a check over to Lakeview, it's supposed to be going to Woodstock. It's Friday, how much you got of that truck? It was a lot of money,
And that was only 1% of it, wasn't it?
only 1%. I think it's 10,000 something, 1 month.
I just hate to see us do anything.
Yeah, I mean, we've been,
Cut off
you know,
that.
they annexed with us one time, and this judge down here, he took all it away from us.
England.
We never get a cent out of it on that. We didn't give it back to them, they wanted it. Woodstock did, we never give it to them. They raised sound about it,
I want to correct something that was said earlier.
big money.
Our GUST has never been allowed to function properly. The people that are on it have done exactly what they needed to do and what they had to do. in that tough position. But a GUSC, by Alabama state law, is responsible for setting up and receiving payments from the contract holders, from the sewer customers. So no, they never received the money, but that process was supposed to have been set up according to state law. That money should have been going through the GUSC before it ever went to Surma Holdings, Fannie Hill Sewer, whoever it was. And that's not the fault of the people that were on the GUSC. That's just the way it happened.
But it is something we can correct going forward if we negotiate that.
That's why these negotiations with the utility service agreement are so important.
Rather than Surma collect the money instead of me writing a check to Tannehill Sewer Fund, I write the check to the GUSC or whatever collection agency the GUSC is putting in place to collect those monthly fees. And then the GUSC pays a portion of that for the treatment. But the GUSC is where it should have been all along, but there really wasn't a lot for the GUSC to do because there wasn't any money coming in because the businesses and the tax revenue never showed up.
Anyway, Jan, do you have any pros of taking the offer?
I mean, the only pro, of course, this debt,
Yeah.
would go away.
Okay. Do you have another con?
My biggest con is, the growth, is if we do this as they've got it on paper, there's no more growth.
We're killing the town, basically.
That's it. We are.
And that was the message that this was being sent for. I'll continue to chair this meeting out from this point moving forward. The letter was sent to us to once again remind us that he is in control. He holds all the cards. For whatever reason, he didn't want to talk when I tried to call him and set up these appointments. And I'm not sure why he continued to cancel appointments, only to call today to make one for Monday. It's all orchestrated. If he wanted to negotiate, if he wants to talk about a utility services agreement, it wasn't necessary to do all this drama, get all these people down here together over this letter that I consider threatening. All he had to do was pick the phone up and set the appointment with me and keep the appointment that he made with me. That's all he had to do. I've been trying to talk to him for 6 months.
I'll disagree. I'm not gonna make the scene, but I'll talk to you about that later.
Well, you unless you're on the phone with me and trying to set up those meetings, then there's nothing for you to disagree about, Nancy.
Well,
I'm thinking this is a scare tactic, and perhaps he holds those cards.
I think he does hold the cards,
But,
but
Ain't the banker, yeah.
He got what we need, doesn't he? That's just the way he did it.
Is that? Yes.
Two questions.
Just
You
way
said
there.
you haven't talked to him in 6 months. When's the last time you saw him?
Oh, I haven't seen him in
He doesn't come.
2.5. I saw him between the time I was appointed and when I was elected, and that's the last time I've seen him. So it was in 16.
So what is this gonna do for us customers?
Say that again.
What is it gonna do for us customers?
What is it?
You know, this agreement y'all got, y'all do sell or don't sell? I mean, you said that you think he's trying to sell the school?
It just reads that way. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I know you don't know.
Just-
Everything in here is indicated. It's saying if it sells, if the new owner, that type of thing.
So long as he retains ownership of the site. So that implies that he may not always own it. I mean, you gotta read between the lines.
Well, I was sort of reading that as whichever family member takes the business at whatever time he retires or whatever.
Man, it could mean that. Absolutely.
But, that's another thing that when we're talking about utility services agreements, I'd like to have some reassurance there that there is a plan of continuation. I don't want to, come out one day and find out that somebody decided they didn't want to be in the water treatment center facility anymore and just shut the power off and packed up and moved to Fiji. And, so there's a lot of things I'd like to see go into utility services agreement. I think to answer your question, strictly my opinion, if we go forward with the original plan from 15 years ago, from what I have read and what I understand about the situation, I wasn't here either. if we go forward with the plan, we start, we annex those businesses, we start to bring in that revenue. We use part of that revenue to repay the debt. The other part of that revenue, we probably need to invest just a little bit in the GUS because as if we're gonna own the collection system, we need to make sure that, if a pipe needs to be repaired, that we've got the money for it, so that the GUS doesn't have to call up the town and ask to borrow money every time we need money. So a little something needs to be negotiated for the GUS. And then the rest of the money comes to the town. The town, I mean, I've seen our budget for the last couple of years. We can do a tremendous amount with $100,000. Part of what we could possibly do, well, of course, one of the things I'd like to talk about in the utility services agreement is to freeze the rates. And put some kind of a hold on the rates, but, a lot of towns, you know, I've had a lot of people say, hey, this is what they pay for utility, this is what they pay for sewer in Alabaster, this is what they pay in this town, this is what they pay in this town. And if you look at that, you'll find that the town is subsidizing those sewer bills. Well, if we had that money,
We could
we
subsidize.
could subsidize those sewer bills, so you know, there's a lot that we can negotiate. We're not gonna get everything we want, but I think some of the things that we do want are growth for the town, prosperity for the people, not getting landlocked and the town dying. You know, I'd like to see some, you know, soccer field and maybe a baseball park, and, I mean, this is a growing little community, a lot of little families. You know, so there's a lot we could do, so I think some of what we could do for the sewer customers is to take some action, one way or the other,
That's true.
take some action.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
your obligations to the city,
Yes, sir.
all right, nobody has proven to you at this point that the city owes anybody anything for the collection.
I have yet to have that document in front of me.
So why would you even consider paying for something nobody has proven is your debt? You can get rid of the GUS, I believe, but don't be a lawyer.
That's not our
All
line.
right, well, a lawyer that you hired, you can do that, okay? As far as I see it, they signed over all their authority within half a day of the time they got it. If you go back and look at the contracts. And so, I mean, technically, I would think that, they haven't been in existence for a long time as a, you know, a tool of the city. So, and those right-of-ways, you're right on that, and the easements wouldn't give them up.
No, that's what concerns me the most. Any other council members, have any pros or cons that they want to list?
No. I mean, I'm gonna go back to, again, it's very important to start the negotiation process. So, you know, if, we just need to get that negotiation process started.
I agree completely.
So let's,
It's been my intent for a while now.
let's get that on the road. I believe the GUS president, who is, authorized to be the negotiator for the GUS, she's chomping at the bits, she's ready. You know, I haven't spoken to the sewer provider, but, in the past, I'll just say in the past, anytime I've asked for a meeting, which hasn't been very often, if he couldn't meet on the day that I asked for, he right away looked at his calendar and said, I am available such and such day. So hopefully, Monday will stay. You'll get a time and a place, and, by Sunday, by Sunday, we'll know, you know, we'll have a little bit of word from that meeting if it's discussable. So, but I'll just say it sounds like from the consensus of the council, without taking a vote, that we may be pretty much on the same page, that we don't need to give, you know, we don't need to relinquish the stuff, and we need to negotiate and get it put back the way it was.
Put back the way it should be.
Put back the way it should be, yes. But the way it should be, yes.
Yeah, not the way it was.
Yeah,
Back to it.
It's never been
the
right.
way it should be, so, I mean, I don't have anything else.
Well, I do think we need to make sure that we don't, I think we need to take action one way or the other. We either accept the offer or don't accept the offer. I think not doing anything is really not what we want to do.
What are the consequences if nothing's done by the next council meeting?
It didn't say in the letter.
He has options for closing.
When we
Based
get-
on,
Not being in compliance with the forbearance agreements.
he's not been in compliance with the forbearance agreements by declaring a sewer moratorium twice during the life of those agreements.
I'm just
It just
stating an
sounds like
opinion.
it's gonna get real ugly and real legal and real expensive.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And
gonna
here we
get real
are without an
expensive.
attorney. Isn't that convenient?
Well, we had one, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, and I talked to him and I know why he's not with us.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know why.
Now, any other input, that you all would like to, share?
When is the, other,
30th?
30th. Is
Sunday.
it 2:30?
On Sunday, September the 30th at 3:30.
3:30.
so not this coming Sunday, the 23rd, but the 30th?
Following. Council, anything else? Got anything, Sharon? Chief?
I'm good.
Cool.
I'd like to speak to you and the guest board members after this meeting.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion. Grant.
Thank you. Good night,
I
everybody.
will say something to the audience, this has nothing to do with the meeting, women. I just know this information because, I have to be the person, if somebody comes up behind you and bumps your vehicle,